Welcome to the second part of indifference curve analysis. In the first part, we had understood the concept of indifference curve and what are the properties of indifference curve and the assumptions relating to indifference curve and what is an indifference map. So before we move into the slides, I hope you have found these slides useful with the text on them for your study and reference purposes and for exams. And also you have shared this video with your friends and subscribed to this channel. So let me now move on to the slides. So here now we are introducing what is known as the budget line, also known as the price line. So budget line or a price line represents the various combination of two goods which can be purchased given the money income of the consumer and the assumed prices of the goods that we are taking under consideration. So income is a constraint for the consumer, and there are different possibilities that the consumer can buy of the goods, but his income for the given time cannot be changed. So this given income has got the way to set the limit to the satisfaction that the consumer gets, and therefore income acts as a constraint. And we also now assign price values to the commodities that we are talking about, good X and good Y. And if the consumer spends all his income on two goods, good X and good Y. So let's see how we can use the price line. So this diagram one, you can see two lines there. And on the first budget line, we have the maximum number of commodity of good Y that he can buy if all his income is purchased, which he cannot do. But nevertheless, just to understand that, he can buy OPY units of good Y and or OPX units of good X. Now there are points on A, B, C, D, E. Those are the different points. If you join them together, those are the different prices and the income that are available. And if we join them together, we get what is called as the budget line or the price line for the commodity. Of course, there are points like K and S. Now K means the consumer can actually work on the price line PY and PX, but the consumer is choosing to be inside the budget line, which is we are not assuming that. We assume that the consumer spends his entire income. There is no concept of saving in indifference curve analysis. So in that particular case, K is something that he's not utilizing his income, and point S is something that it is unattainable, like how we did it in basic problems. Here also we say that point S is unattainable at the given income of the consumer, given income and prices of the consumer. Now, what happens when price change? Now, price can change in two ways. One is the price of commodity Y can change, and the other is the price of commodity X can change. The given condition, both are possible. So if the price of Y remains the same, that is at OB, and only the price of X falls. Now you can see what has happened when the price of commodity X falls. The consumer was able to buy 10 units of commodity X. When the price of X falls, the consumer is now able to buy 20 units. At another time, the price still falls further, the consumer will be able to buy 40 units. So we have kept the price of Y constant, and we have only shifted the price of the commodity X. On the other hand, we have the second diagram, we have the price of X being held constant and the price of Y falling. When the price falls of Y, we can say that the consumer can buy more units of commodity Y. From OB1, he can go to OB to OB2. So this movement outward shows that the consumer is able to buy a larger quantity of that commodity whose prices have fallen. Now we come to another important part of indifference curve analysis. We now have to explain how does a consumer attain equilibrium using prices and income and indifference curve and budget line. All of that together, we will have to learn how to reach the consumer's equilibrium. So to study the consumer's equilibrium, we have Kotsianis, and in her book she says the consumer is in equilibrium when he maximizes his utility given his income and market prices. So there are two constraints for the consumer. One is the prices and one is the income of the consumer. Keeping these two given, then how does the consumer reach his equilibrium between two goods, and how much will he finally consume of the two goods? So what we shall do now is we shall introduce the budget line and superimpose it along on the indifference curve. You can see how it is done. So now let's look at the point of tangency. What do we see in this diagram? We have superimposed the indifference curve on a budget line which is given for the time under study. So this indifference curve is said to be tangent to the price line or budget line at the point E, and the consumer would buy an equivalent amount of commodity Y and a certain amount of commodity X. Now, this consumer will not, it is, what about points like R and T? Points R and T are also intersecting the budget line, but then they are inside the budget line, which means the consumer is not using his entire income, and he is also on a lower indifference curve than what he can actually afford to consume. So the point of equilibrium is on the when the indifference curve is tangent on the to the budget line. So the conditions of equilibrium under this analysis. Now we know that the consumer is in a position of equilibrium when he no longer wants to reallocate his expenditure between two commodities that he is consuming. In this particular case, commodity Y and commodity X. Now the indifference curve has to be tangent to the budget line, and we also saw why it cannot be inside, the indifference curve cannot be inside the budget line, or why it cannot go choose a point far away, because that is also unattainable to the consumer. Now these two conditions mean the first condition is that the marginal rate of substitution should be equal to the ratio of the commodity prices. That means the rate at which one commodity can be exchanged for another commodity. So at that point, the marginal rate of substitution is equal to the price ratios of the two commodities. Commodity price ratios. The second condition is that indifference curve must be convex to the origin, and only then it can rest upon the budget line. If it is concave to the origin, then we will not be able to explain the indifference curve point of tangency the way we want to show the diminishing marginal rate of substitution. So at the point E, the slope of the budget line, that is the ratio of prices, exactly equals to the slope of the indifference curve itself. And so price line must be tangent to the indifference curve, and only when the two conditions are satisfied, one is the marginal rate of substitution is falling and it is equal to the price line there, and the other one is that it can be one good can be exchanged for the other at that particular point. So when we have this condition satisfied, we will say that the consumer is in a position of equilibrium. Now, so once the consumer is in equilibrium, you can also wonder in your own way, do you find this kind of equilibrium situation that you have to do? For example, if I give you two activities, relaxation activities like eating out and watching games. Now, I'm sure that we go through this kind of which one to do, because we have constraints of the price and constraints of income. So how do we choose among these various possibilities that we can consume? So you can draw a budget line. You can also try and draw the combinations that you can think of spending on relaxation and on on eating out and on watching movies, you can find out how you want to spend this income with the budget that you have, with the prices that you have, and see at what point do you feel that you will be reaching an equilibrium. And if it happens above that, or if it happens below that combination, also it is fine. So long as your indifference curve is tangent to the price line. So you can try understanding that. And in the next lesson, I shall speak about the price effect, income effect, and substitution effect. So please do not forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you.